"You're dead to us," my husband and his family said, just because I couldn't give them a child. They threw me out with nothing but a suitcase and shame. But 4 years later, I stepped off a private jet with my 2-year-old son and a handsome man. Their silence said everything, and so did my smile. My name is Sarah. 4 years ago, my mother-in-law Charlotte looked me dead in the eyes and said, "A woman without a child is like a tree without fruit." She handed me a suitcase and kicked me out of the only home I had known as a married woman. But let's go back to where it all started to fall apart. I was sitting in Dr. Rodriguez's office, gripping Jordan's hand so tightly my knuckles had turned white. The test results lay on the mahogany desk between us like a death sentence. Jordan's jaw was clenched, eyes fixed on the wall behind the doctor's head. "I'm sorry, Dr. Rodriguez said gently. The tests show significant fertility challenges. Conception will be extremely difficult, though not impossible. Before I continue, thank you for being here. If you believe every woman deserves a second chance, please subscribe. It is free and helps us reach more women who need to hear stories of strength and hope. Now, let me tell you how I survived." The drive home was silent, just the hum of Jordan's BMW filling the space. As we pulled into the circular driveway of his family's estate, I saw Charlotte and Amanda through the kitchen window, heads bent in hushed conversation. They looked up as we entered. Charlotte's voice came sharp, expectant. "What did the doctor say?" Jordan loosened his tie and poured himself a scotch. "It's going to be more complicated than we thought." Amanda set her teacup down with a clink. "What does that mean exactly?" I opened my mouth to speak, but Jordan cut in. "Sarah has some issues that make pregnancy unlikely." Issues? As if I were some broken appliance. Charlotte's face shifted disappointment, then frustration, and finally, almost disgust. "Well, there are always options, aren't there? Specialists, treatments. We're going to explore everything," I said quietly, trying to hold onto my dignity. But Charlotte had already turned away. The conversation, for her, was done. Still, her judgment hung heavy in the air. That night, Jordan and I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The silence between us felt like a canyon. "We'll figure this out," I whispered. "There are treatments, procedures," he replied, distant. "Let's just see what happens." What followed were 18 months of heartbreak. 18 months of negative pregnancy tests I hid deep in the bathroom. Trash. 18 months of Charlotte's barbed comments at breakfast. Eleanor's daughter-in-law just had twins. She's so fulfilled as a grandmother. Amanda chimed in. "I'll probably be pregnant within 6 months of marriage." I could barely eat. My appetite faded with each subtle jab. Jordan eventually stopped coming to appointments. "I've got a call," he'd say. "The office needs me." I sat alone in waiting rooms surrounded by glowing pregnant women, feeling like a fraud. Dr. Rodriguez remained kind, but each treatment became more invasive, more expensive, and more likely to fail. One night, I cautiously suggested adoption. Jordan didn't even look up. "My mother wants biological grandchildren. You know how she feels about bloodlines." Bloodlines. Like we were breeding horses. The final straw came one Tuesday in March. I'd felt nauseous for 3 days and allowed myself to hope just a little. I took a test. Negative. I collapsed on the bathroom floor and cried, not soft, dignified tears, but guttural sobs from deep inside me. When I finally composed myself and came downstairs, Jordan was at his desk. Papers spread out. Divorce papers. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked, numb. He looked up almost relieved. "Sarah, we both know this isn't working. We want different things." "No, We want the same thing, a family. I want a family that's actually possible. The prenup was highlighted. Every clause meant to protect their wealth. Every clause that left me with nothing. I was 25, I said, staring at my signature. I thought love would be enough. Love doesn't pay bills, Jordan muttered, or carry on family names. Charlotte appeared in the doorway, as if summoned. Sarah, dear, I think it's best you pack your things tonight. Amanda will drive you. I looked at Jordan, silent. He just gathered the papers, eyes avoiding mine. My lawyer will contact you about the details. I packed one suitcase that night. Charlotte stood watching, arms crossed. You're young, she said. You'll find someone better suited to your limitations. Amanda handed me my coat and purse. The taxi's here. As I stood at the front door, Charlotte handed me $23 for the ride. You'll understand someday. A woman who can't give her husband children is incomplete. Jordan deserves better. And just like that, I was gone. I had no home, no money, no plan. I asked the taxi driver to take me anywhere cheap. He dropped me at a rundown motel, $43 for 3 nights. The room smelled like smoke and despair. My entire life had collapsed into one carry-on suitcase. The next morning, I walked into Martina's dry cleaning with my only work outfit and asked for a job. You ever worked retail? The owner asked. Yes, I lied. She handed me a faded apron. $6 an hour cash. You start now. The first customer handed me a cashmere coat worth more than my rent. My hands trembled. I remembered walk-in closets filled with coats like these. Now, I was invisible. Background noise to the life I once lived. During my break, I cried in the employee bathroom, but I went back out and smiled like nothing had happened. That night, I found a $300 month studio apartment. The landlord, Mr. Chin, looked suspicious until I offered 2 months' rent in cash. It was tiny. The radiator clanged all night. The faucet leaked, but it was mine. I bought a second-hand mattress and dragged it up the stairs. The previous tenant had left behind a dented kettle and a fork. I ate instant noodles on the floor, told myself it was temporary, but temporary became months. I juggled 2 jobs, then 3. Bookstore shifts in the morning, office cleaning at night, weekends spent in catering uniforms, serving champagne to the same kind of people who once called me family. No one noticed me, and maybe that's when I found strength, because invisibility makes you fearless. One Tuesday morning, running late and covered in coffee, I ducked into a deli and bumped into someone. Sarah Mitchell. I looked up. It took a second. Raj Patel? From Maple Street. He was older now, kind eyes, graying hair. You helped my mom when she fell. She never forgot. We talked. He now owned a logistics company, built it from scratch. I'm actually looking for an operations manager, he said. Raj, I clean offices. I work at a dry cleaner. I'm not qualified. You know people, he replied. That's rarer than you think. You know about working hard, and you know about starting over. He pulled out a business card. Come in Monday morning, he said. Let's see what you can do. That weekend, I devoured everything I could find about logistics and supply chain management. I borrowed business books from Helen and read until my eyes burned. Monday morning, I walked into Patel Logistics wearing the only professional outfit I owned, the same one ID worn to the dry cleaner 6 months ago. The office was small but organized. 3 employees handled client accounts in a space that somehow felt both focused and full of quiet potential. Raj introduced me to the team and gave me a desk near the window. Start with these client files, he said. handing me a stack of folders. Learn the accounts. Figure out where we can improve efficiency. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I threw myself into the work like my life depended on it because, in a way, it did. Every report I wrote, every client call one handled, every system I streamlined, it all felt like a rebellion against Charlotte's words. I wasn't a barren woman. I wasn't a failure. At first, Maria and David, the other employees, seemed skeptical. Raj's new hire? Just another charity case. But then I reorganized the filing system, created a tracking spreadsheet that saved them hours every week. Slowly, they started coming to me not just with problems, but with ideas. For the first time since leaving Jordan's house, I felt useful, valuable, like I might actually have a future that didn't involve counting quarters at the grocery store. 3 months into the job, Raj called me into his office. "You've increased our efficiency by 30%, he said, sliding an envelope across the desk. "This is your new salary." The number inside made my hands tremble. It was more than I'd made at all 3 of my previous jobs combined. Enough for a real apartment, real furniture, real meals, no more instant noodles. That night, sitting on my floor mattress for the last time, I allowed myself to believe something I hadn't dared to for months. Maybe I wasn't done yet. 6 months in, while eating lunch at my desk, Maria casually mentioned her side hustle in cryptocurrency. "Made $300 last month just sitting on my phone," she said, scrolling through charts. Something clicked. I'd spent so long surviving paycheck to paycheck that I never considered how to make money work for me. That evening, I signed up for an online finance course. My first Saturday in months wasn't for errands, it was for learning. The instructor, Dr. Angela Chin, described compound interest like it was magic. "Your money should have babies," she said in a lecture. "And those babies should have babies." I started small, $50 from each paycheck into index funds. Then came a business strategy course by a venture capitalist who'd built 3 companies from scratch. I watched his lectures on my lunch breaks, scribbling notes on recycled paper. "The difference between the wealthy and everyone else," he explained, "isn't how much they make, it's how much they keep and grow." When Raj mentioned losing a major client due to poor communication, I didn't just solve the issue, I designed a client retention system. When our delivery tracking failed, I researched solutions and presented a full cost-benefit analysis. "Where did you learn all this?" Raj asked one day. "YouTube University," I said, only half joking. My first real breakthrough came from shipping data. Certain routes always ran over budget, others under. I built a predictive model over 2 weeks and presented it to Raj. "This could save us $40,000 a year," he said, eyes wide. "Sarah, this is brilliant." That afternoon, he handed me a $5,000 bonus. I didn't blow it on furniture or vacation. I researched emerging tech companies. One caught my eye, Green Tech Solutions. They were developing solar panel efficiency software. Risky, yes, but something about it felt right. I bought in. 3 months later, they announced a partnership with a major energy company. My investment doubled overnight. I reinvested, this time across 5 startups. One failed, to broke even, but to soared. By my first anniversary at Battelle Logistics, my portfolio hit $23,000. "You look different," Maria said one morning. "More confident, or something." She was right. I no longer checked my bank account with dread. I checked my investments with anticipation. Numbers that once terrified me now excited me. Raj promoted me to senior operations manager. The raise allowed me to move into a 1-bedroom apartment with actual furniture. But I didn't upgrade my lifestyle. I upgraded my strategy. The real turning point came when I discovered angel investing networks. It was more than I'd ever imagined having. But after a year of studying the market, analyzing financials, and spotting trends, I felt ready. Then it happened. A biotech startup focused on breakthrough fertility treatments landed on my radar. I liquidated half my portfolio and joined the investment round. The irony didn't escape me. The kind of innovation that might have saved my marriage. Now I was the one funding it. 18 months later, my $50,000 stake turned into $200,000. I was learning that wealth isn't about working harder. It's about positioning yourself in the path of other people's success. My portfolio crossed $500,000 on a rainy Thursday. The notification popped up on my phone while I was reviewing reports. For a moment, I just sat there, remembering the woman who ate instant noodles on a floor mattress 2 years ago. That weekend, I went shopping not for necessity, but for pleasure. A boutique downtown I'd passed 100 times. Leather handbags I'd never dared to touch. I walked in wearing jeans and sneakers. The saleswoman looked skeptical until I pointed to a caramel-colored bag. "I'll take that one." "Excellent choice," she said, wrapping it in tissue paper. "Cash or card?" "Card." I didn't check the price tag. I didn't need to. It wasn't about the bag. It was about reclaiming the part of me that once believed beautiful things weren't for people like me. My millionaire moment came quietly on a Tuesday morning. Over coffee. The tech sector had surged overnight. $1,043,712. I stared at the screen, heart pounding so loud I was sure the whole cafe could hear it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I whispered, "You should have never let me go." Then I closed the laptop. That same afternoon, I made my boldest move yet. I bought shares in a jet management firm, a $400,000 investment. It came with usage rights. As I signed the paperwork, I thought of Charlotte and the suitcase, of Jordan handing me divorce papers, of Amanda smirking as she called a cab. They thought they were discarding trash. I was becoming treasure. 2 weeks later, the flight coordinator called. "Where would you like to go, Miss Mitchell?" I looked out the window at the city where I'd rebuilt everything. "Anywhere I want," I said. And for the first time in years that was true. But freedom doesn't mean much when you have no one to share it with. 3 years into my financial success, I realized something painful. I'd become excellent at building wealth, but terrible at building connection. My evenings were quiet, lonely. I'd spend hours reviewing spreadsheets and researching markets. Everything was efficient, but nothing was alive. So, I stepped back from consulting and tried something completely different. I needed to serve people again, to have simple human interactions not tied to profit margins or metrics. Cafe Luna was a cozy, imperfect little place. Mismatched chairs, local art, soul. The owner, Mrs. Rodriguez, hired me for weekend shifts, despite my complete lack of restaurant experience. "You seem like someone who's forgotten how to just be," she said, tying an apron around my waist. "This place will teach you." My first Saturday shift was chaos. I spilled coffee, mixed up orders, broke the espresso machine, but it felt freeing to fail at something completely unrelated to business. And that's when I noticed him. Christian, corner table, every Saturday, black coffee, blueberry muffin, a different book each week. He was maybe in his early 30s. Kind eyes, gentle hands that turned pages like they were sacred. And he saw people, really saw them. He noticed my worn black shoes, my fading smile as the rush hit. And when I messed up his order, which happened often, he'd just smile and say, "No worries. I'm not in any hurry." The third Saturday, he asked my name. Sarah, I said, refilling his coffee. Christian, he replied. And thank you for working so hard to make everyone's morning better, even when you're clearly exhausted. My cheeks flushed. It had been so long since anyone noticed my effort, not just my results. Week by week, our conversations deepened. He was a social worker at a children's center, helping kids in crisis. He listened like it was an art form. One quiet morning, he said, "You seem sad sometimes, like you're carrying something heavy." I almost brushed it off, but something about his eyes, how gently they held mine, made me pause. "Some baggage from my past," I said softly. "Nothing too dramatic. Baggage always feels heavier to the one carrying it." After my shifts, Christian started waiting for me. We'd walk to the park across the street and sit on a bench, talking about everything except money or work. He told me about growing up in foster care, about finding family in unexpected places. I shared my childhood dreams of becoming a teacher, how I once wanted to help children learn to read. "What changed?" he asked. "Life," I said simply. One evening, as autumn turned the leaves golden, I told him everything. About Jordan, about the fertility struggles, about Charlotte's cruelty, and the prenup that left me with nothing, about sleeping on a floor mattress and eating instant noodles for months. Christian listened quietly, without interrupting or offering empty comfort. When I finished, he was silent for a moment. "I'm sorry that happened to you," he said finally, "but I need you to know something. You're not broken. You're not incomplete. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." I felt tears rising and looked away. "You don't understand." I couldn't give him what he wanted. I failed at the one thing women are supposed to do. "Sarah," his voice was firm but kind, "look at me." I turned toward him, expecting pity, but what I saw was admiration. "You survived being discarded by people who were supposed to love you. You built a life from nothing. You chose kindness over bitterness. That's not failure. That's extraordinary." Something shifted inside me that night. For the first time since my divorce, I felt seen, not for what I couldn't be, but for who I truly was. Our relationship grew slowly, carefully. Christian never pushed for more than I was ready to give. He never asked about my finances or seemed impressed by my business success. He was interested in me, not my portfolio. We started cooking dinner together at his apartment. He taught me how to make fresh pasta. I showed him my grandmother's apple pie recipe. These moments felt more intimate than anything I'd ever shared with Jordan. 8 months later, during one of our evening walks, Christian proposed. Not with a flashy ring, but with heartfelt honesty. "I love who you are when you're with me," he said, "and I love who I am when I'm with you. We're better together." The ring was simple and elegant, clearly chosen with care, not for show. "Yes," I said, before he could even finish the question. We married 6 months later at a small courthouse ceremony. I wore a cream dress from a local boutique. He wore his best suit. Mrs. Rodriguez was our witness, crying happy tears as she signed the papers. "No prenup?" the officiant asked, reviewing our documents. Christian and I looked at each other and laughed. "No prenup," I said. "We're in this together." Afterward, we had dinner at Cafe Luna, and Mrs. Rodriguez closed early and cooked for us herself. It was simple and perfect. The miracle came 14 months later. I was reviewing quarterly reports when nausea hit. I rushed to the bathroom. The pregnancy test I bought that afternoon showed 2 pink lines. I stared at it in disbelief, remembering all those years of disappointment. But this time felt different. This time felt like hope. When Christian came home, I was sitting on the couch, still holding the test. Sarah, what's wrong? I handed it to him silently. His face shifted from confusion to recognition, and then to pure joy. Are you sure? He whispered, as sure as these things can be. He sat beside me and pulled me close. We both cried, tears of wonder, gratitude, and disbelief that something so deeply wanted could actually happen. 9 months later, I held our son in my arms, Thomas Christian Mitchell, named for his father, carrying my maiden name by choice. He was perfect, healthy, and wholly ours. As Christian wept beside my hospital bed, I thought of Charlotte's old words about being a fruitless tree, incomplete and worthless. Now, I was a mother, but more importantly, I was a woman who had learned her worth wasn't tied to anyone else's expectations. Somewhere in the city, I imagined Charlotte choking on her morning tea if she ever found out. But honestly, I was too happy to care. Thomas was 18 months old, taking his first wobbly steps, when the unexpected message arrived. It was from Amanda Harrison. Subject: Invitation, Women's Leadership Gala. Dear Ms. Mitchell, your company, Mitchell Strategic Consulting, has been recommended as a rising force in business leadership. We would be honored to have you attend our annual charity gala. I stared at the email. The event was being held at the Harrison Estate, the same house where I'd once been handed $23 for a taxi. Christian walked in. You look like you've seen a ghost. I showed him the email. You don't have to go, he said gently. I know, but maybe I want to. That evening, we talked it through. I'm not angry anymore, I told him. Just curious. What would it feel like to walk back into that world as someone completely different? You are someone completely different, Christian said. The question is, do they deserve to meet her? 3 days later, I sent my RSVP. Delighted to attend. I'll be bringing my family. I made preparations. Midnight blue silk dress. Private jet share. My assistant arranged the details. Most importantly, I made sure Christian was comfortable. Are you sure you want to bring Thomas? Christian bounced our son on his knee and smiled. This little guy is proof that you are exactly who you're meant to be. If we're doing this, we're doing it as a family. The night of the gala, we arrived in a sleek black car. Thomas babbled in his tiny navy suit. As our jet descended toward the city, I felt something unexpected peace. This wasn't about revenge. It was about showing up as the woman I had become. Photographers flashed their cameras. I stepped out first, radiant and composed. Christian lifted Thomas from his car seat. We walked the same steps where I had once carried groceries. But this time, I walked in as myself, successful, loved, and whole. I spotted Jordan across the room. He was holding a cocktail. Mid-conversation, he looked up, casually, and then did a double take. His face went pale. The glass in his hand slipped. Though he caught it, he stared at Christian, at Thomas, at me. Sarah, he stammered. What are you doing here? Hello, Jordan, I replied smoothly. I was invited. Amanda and Charlotte appeared. Charlotte stopped so abruptly that Amanda nearly ran into her. Sarah. Charlotte's voice was a whisper. Amanda's expression shifted from confusion to horror as she realized who she'd invited. Mitchell is my maiden name, I explained gently. I went back to it after my divorce. Less complicated for business. Charlotte stared at Thomas, who giggled and reached toward a chandelier. How old is he? She asked quietly. 18 months, Christian answered, full of pride. I watched her do the math, watched her realize I had the child she claimed I never could with a man who clearly loved us both. Hello, Charlotte, I said softly, adjusting Thomas's collar. How's the fruitless tree doing now? Charlotte didn't reply. Amanda spilled champagne down her dress. The party carried on. Laughter and music surrounded us. No one else realized a personal earthquake had just hit the Harrison family. We stayed to hours long enough to make our point, short enough to avoid unnecessary drama. As we rode back to the airport, Thomas asleep in Christian's arms, I felt something deep and profound closure. On the flight home, I deleted Jordan's number, unfollowed Amanda and Charlotte, not from anger, just because I was done. Christian found me in the kitchen the next morning, humming as I made breakfast. You seem different, he said, lighter. I feel like I just put down a suitcase I'd been carrying for years, I replied. Didn't even know how heavy it was until I let it go. 3 months later, that feeling led to something greater. I had an idea. What if we started a foundation to help women rebuild after divorce? Within 6 months, the Phoenix Foundation was born. Financial education, business mentorship, emotional support. Our first client, Maria, came in with $47 and 2 young children. I don't know where to start, she said. I smiled gently. You start exactly where you are. We'll help you take the next step. 6 months later, she had a job, savings, and confidence. Thomas learned to walk in the foundation's halls. He toddled between workshops and support groups. Our staff became his extended family and he, our symbol of hope. By his 2nd birthday, we'd helped over 100 women restart their lives. Later, as I reviewed applications, I came across a familiar name: Jennifer Harrison, Jordan's cousin, recently divorced, raising twin daughters. Christian looked at me. What do you want to do? Help her, I said. Her children need their mother stable. That's more important than the past. Jennifer became one of our most successful clients. She never knew our connection. She didn't need that burden. 2 years later, at Thomas's 4th birthday, I looked around our backyard. Laughter, community, Christian manning the grill, children from every background playing together. This was success. That night, on the porch swing with Christian, he asked, "Any regrets?" I thought about everything. The pain, the loss, the loneliness. None, I said. All of it led me here, to you, to Thomas, to this life. Christian squeezed my hand. You know what I love most about you? What? You turned your pain into purpose. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful, healing stories.